What's up, guys? Laura Whitmore here, owner of Strategic Test Prep. I've been a test prep instructor for over 15 years now. I super scored 1570 on the SAT, and I'm really excited today because scores were released for the May test. So this video is all about walking you guys through the solutions to section 3 of the math for the paper-based test. Just a heads up, I didn't actually take this test, you guys. I sometimes sit in, but one of my students gave me access to his questions in his account. And what's really awesome is he went from a 1300 something to a 1530. Just for point of reference, we worked together for 2 months and met twice a week. So I'm super proud of him, and I'm really excited to check out all these math questions and show you guys how they're done. I will say this test I heard was a little bit tougher for section 3 than normal. So if you didn't really do that well this round or you weren't really happy with your result, definitely keep at it. Please don't give up. I actually have an awesome online SAT course that you can take to help you improve your score. I will link it right up here and put it down in the description. It literally covers all the same stuff that I cover in my in-person class. And students that have taken it so far have reported great success and gone up, over 100 points or more. So definitely check that out if you're planning on taking another test. Also, if you're planning on taking another test, make sure you subscribe to my channel because I continue to come out with videos each week to help you guys master the SAT and get the score you want. All right, let's get into the questions. Okay, so question 1 is pretty simple. So you guys just keep it simple. They said if a student enrolls in 8 3-credit classes, how many 4-credit classes? So go to where there's 8 3-credit classes, go up, look at the data point, go over. It looks like there would be 9 4-credit classes. So the answer to that one was C. All right, question 2. This is also a really simple problem. Can you read the graph of a line? We have a y-intercept at 1, so we'll get rid of the -1 y-intercepts because as you can see, it's right here. The slope is going up 1 over 1. I'm checking my axes and they definitely are counting by ones. So it's just a slope of a positive 1 over 1. So the answer to that was A. Okay, question 3. The graph of a polynomial function f. By the way, you guys, a polynomial could look like this. I mean, we don't know what it looks like, but a polynomial basically means it has many terms in it. We don't know what the highest exponent term is, and that's okay. It says y equals f of x. It has x-intercepts of -6, 0, and 6, 0. So that sounds like it's a quadratic. It basically hits the x-axis over at -6 and 6. I don't know if it's turning up or down. We'll just pretend it's turning up right now. Which of the following must be true? They're just testing your knowledge of being able to read function notation. So the x value goes inside the parentheses. The y value is what you get. It's basically x is input, y is output. So as you can see, an x value is -6 and the output is 0. So the answer to that is A. Okay, question 4. So they give us a system. They said, what is the solution to the given system of equations? Typically, I do the elimination method because they have the x's and the y's neatly lined up. That's not the case here, but they define y in terms of x. So this is a great time to use substitution. So I'm actually going to put 4x plus 6 in for y into the second equation. Now you have to be careful. All of that needs to be in parentheses because you're going to subtract it all away. That means you have to make sure to distribute that negative sign. And then you can combine like terms. So we've got -9x minus 6 equals 21. Add the 6 to both sides. We're almost home free. You can pretty much see what's happening here. Thankfully, 27 is divisible by 9. We get an x value of -3. Since it's only a number 4, it's still pretty easy. Fortunately, there's only one answer that has an x of -3, so we know it's A, and we can move on. All right, question 5. They threw in another curveball or a wrinkle. Now, typically with absolute value equations, you drop off the absolute values and write 2 equations, setting one equal to the positive answer and one equal to the negative answer. 0 doesn't have a positive or negative to it. So you technically only have one solution right at x is 10. So the answer to that one was C. All right, question 6. This is an isolating a variable problem. They basically want you to get r by itself. So what we'll do first is we will divide both sides by s. So now I have q over s equals r minus 1 squared. Let's get rid of the squared. So now we have square root of q over s equals r minus 1. Just have to add 1 to both sides. So we've got 1 plus square root of q over s equals r. So the answer is A. All right, question 7. It says, in the relationship between variables x and y, each increase of 1 in the value of x decreases the value of y by 2. Well, that sounds linear. So when we have a rise over run relationship, What that means is when y goes down by 2, because that's the rise, x goes up by 1. So our slope is -2. Okay, well, what do we know now? Let me put that into my line. So I know the slope, but I don't know the y-intercept yet. Fortunately, they save us there. They give us an x value and a y value. We'll put those in so that b is the only unknown and solve. So if y is 5, x is 0. So that means 5 equals 0 plus b. So that means b is 5. So when you put it all together, y equals 2x plus 5. So the answer is, oh, I must have missed a negative. Sorry, that was a negative 2x. My bad, I'm going too fast. So the answer is a negative 2x plus 5, which is D. All right, question 8. So they give us this parabola, they give us a formula, they want the value of k. I don't even need to read all of that. Honestly, when I look at the picture, it's clear that they're pointing to the vertex. That is basically screaming, use me, use me. We know the vertex is at 4, 8. Well, what does that mean? 4 is x, 8 is y, which is great because I can substitute those into the formula so I can solve for k because I need k to be the only unknown. So if I put 8 in for y and 4 in for x, I basically get this. I will cross multiply. -4 times -4 is 16. That equals 8k. Divide both sides by 8. So that means k is 2. Okay, we have an isosceles right triangle. They didn't give it to us, so I always encourage my students to draw a picture first and foremost before doing anything else. It's good to have a diagram or a visual. I'm going to draw an isosceles right triangle. Isosceles means two sides are equal, so that means the two legs are the same size. They said the hypotenuse is 4. I will put that there. So this is an x and this is an x. Now, I already know that on the cheat sheet at the beginning of your math section, this is a special right triangle, you guys. This is basically a 45, 45, 90. Okay, guys, so you may or may not know this, but there are special right triangles on the cheat sheet in the front of the section. So you can go look at a 45, 45, 90 triangle, and you'll notice that the ratios of the sides are x, x. Your hypotenuse is actually x radical 2. So that means 4 equals x radical 2, since that's the hypotenuse. We can solve for x. I'm going to divide by radical 2 on both sides. Now, we have to rationalize the denominator. So I'll multiply by radical 2 over radical 2. That leaves me with a 4 radical 2 over 2. 4 cancels with the 2, so I end up with 2 radical 2. So each leg is 2 radical 2. So if they want the perimeter, I've got one leg, another leg, and then the hypotenuse. When I add them together, I end up with a 4 radical 2 plus 4. So the answer is C. All right, question 10. How many solutions does this have? This was on my predictions video. This is nothing new. They've been testing this all school year. First, I want to look at it in a proper format, so I'm going to distribute. Okay, what I see is the coefficients in front of the x's are different. So both sides aren't the same. It's not infinitely many. Coefficients aren't the same, where constants are different, so it's not no solution. This is just a one solution situation. You can go to solve it. You can combine like terms. You'll be able to get a value for x. All right, question 11. They gave us a line k. This is not the first time they've done this problem, by the way. I've seen this problem before. Different numbers, same scenario. So you'll notice that the radius of the circle is actually perpendicular to line k. If we need the slope of line k, we can actually get the slope of line AC. And since it's perpendicular, then we'll take the negative reciprocal of it. So as you guys know, it's change in y over change in x. So I'll just do a -4 minus -5 over -5 minus -7. So I end up with 1 over 2. So if AC is 1/2, that means K is going to be a -2. So the answer was A. All right, question 12. So when I get to a question like this, and I would suggest this for you guys too, you have a function that you should have never seen in your life before. And when you have a function and then you have a bunch of English underneath, it's hard to synthesize information coming from two different sources. So I would recommend you just annotate directly on the function so that you can see what's going on quickly. So I'm going to make a little note. What is R? R is the predicted average rating expressed as number of points. Okay, so it's the average rating in points. And then what is T? T is the number of years the player has participated in professional chess tournaments. So number of years participated. So when the question says, what of the following represents the predicted average rating of a player who just entered their first professional chess tournament? If it's their first tournament, they haven't played for any years. So that means T is going to be 0. So you're going to input 0 in for t into the function so that the answer is B. Okay, question 13. Alice took 60 minutes to complete a task for her first trial. The time it took Alice to complete the task decreased by 10% of the previous time for each additional trial. Approximately how many minutes will it take Alice to complete the task on her fifth trial? Okay, what you don't want to do is add up 10% 5 times and then take 50% of 60. That is not the same thing as taking 10% off each new value. You will get something lower because you're taking a percentage off of a larger amount to start. So you're not going to get the same answer. So you have to do it in increments. We're going to basically take 10% off of 60 by multiplying it by 0.9. Because if I take 10% off, 90% is left. So I have 54. I'm going to multiply that by 0.9. So I have 48.6. I'm going to multiply that by 0.9. I have 43.74. I'm going to multiply that by 0.9. And I get 39.366. They said approximately, so I'll round that down to 39 and I'm done. Okay, question 14. Guys, there are some ugly ways you can do this on the paper-based test. You could try to draw a graph them out, see where the solution sets are using test points. You could work backwards, take all the answer choices, put them in for X and Y till you see one that works. Those are very time consuming. So what I would recommend for you is if you have a TI-84, which most of you should hit your apps button on the calculator, then go to inequals. It says something like that. Basically, it looks like inequalities. I think it's option 7. Don't quote me on that. It might be option 6 or 7. You're going to hit enter. It's going to take you to a home screen. You'll hit enter again. That's going to turn on the functionality for you to be able to graph inequalities right in your graphing calculator. So I will link a video down in the description so you can watch it in more detail. But what's really neat is once you graph these in your graphing calculator, you can see where they crosshatch and where the solution set is. And then you can quickly run through the answers and see, which ones don't apply. So like when I graphed it in Desmos, and I'll show you guys right now on the screen, I could tell -2, -8 wasn't in the solution set. So I got rid of A and B. I could tell -2, 3 wasn't in the solution set, so I got rid of C. And then I just checked all the ones in D, and they all definitely were in there, so the answer was D. That is definitely the quickest way and the way that I would recommend doing it. All right, question 15 is a little tricky. Now, this is classic SAT. It's an exponent problem, and from what I've seen and known about exponent problems, you want to try to get like bases. If you don't have like bases, you can't apply the exponent rules. They won't work. So first, what I'm going to do, just for ease, is I'm going to rewrite these with fraction exponents, because then I can add the fractions and I can multiply the fractions. So it's just a lot easier to apply the rules when they're in fraction form. How can I get like bases out of 32 and 64? Well, I can rewrite them both as 2 to a power. So I know 32 is 2 to the 5th, and I know 64 is 2 to the 6th. So now I'm going to apply my exponent rules. When I raise a power to a power, I multiply. So I have 2 to the 5 halves times 2 to the 6 fifths. Okay, so when I multiply with like bases, I add the exponents. But since they're both fractions, we need to make sure that we get common denominators. So I'll multiply this fraction by 5 over 5. I'm going to multiply this one by 2 over 2. So I end up with basically 2 25 tenths times 2 12 tenths. And then when I add those together, I get 2 37 tenths. Okay, which basically is 37 tenths. Well, I get 3 out of that. And then I have a remainder of 7 tenths. So 2 to the 3rd is 8. And then I'm going to rewrite this in radical form because that's how the answers are. Now, 7 stays the exponent, 10 is the root. So I'm going to have a root 10, 2 to the 7th, and I see that in D. All right, so number 16 isn't easy. They want a line parallel to K. Well, parallel means this; it's the same slope. So as you can see, we're going up 1 and over 5. So the slope is 1/5. Okay, 17, the expression 32x to the 6 over 4x to the 3rd is equivalent to cxd. Well, all they really want us to do is simplify that. 32 divided by 4 is 8. X to the 6 divided by x to the 3rd, I subtract, so that's going to be x to the 3rd. So that means c is 8, d is 3 because of their positioning. So when I add those together, because they want c plus d, I get 11. All right, what is the value of h? Guys, this is simple algebra. You just have to distribute. So I have a 2.1h plus 6.3 equals 3h plus 2.1. I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms. I'll subtract the 2.1h from both sides. I will also subtract a 2.1 from both sides. So now I have a 0.9h equals 4.2. I'm going to divide by 0.9. And when you go ahead and put that in your calculator, you end up getting h equals, it looks like 4.6 repeating. So on your test, according to the directions, you could actually, there's 4 boxes. You have to fill them all in. So you could technically put 4.66, or you could round up and put 4.67, but you have to fill all the boxes. So that's 18. Okay, 19. Talking about a cylinder and a radius, same situation. I think you guys should start by drawing a picture. So we have a cylinder, height is 16, radius is r. Then we have a sphere, radius again is r. Now they said the volume of the sphere is half the volume of the cylinder. More to come on that. But first, we should know the volume formulas for each. Volume of a cylinder, this is right on the front of the cheat sheet. It's V equals pi r squared h. Sphere is V equals 4/3 pi r cubed. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up an equation. So let me do this in a different color. I have my cylinder, pi r squared times 16 is the height. So I'm actually going to put the 16 in the front just because it looks better that way. Remember, multiplication is commutative. It doesn't matter if I put the 16 on the end or the front. We're multiplying all those numbers together. And then I am going to just write my sphere on the other side. Now, this is why this is a hard. When they say the volume of the sphere is half the volume of the cylinder, that means we need to make sure the sphere is set to half of this. Now, my student that got the 1530 made a very common mistake, and I think maybe a lot of you guys did this too. You might have put the 1/2 on the other side with the sphere, but then what that says is basically the cylinder is half the volume of the sphere. So it's kind of like a weird reverse logic thing that you got to be really careful about. Now I'm going to go ahead and solve it. So I basically have 1/2 times 16, which is 8. So I have 8 pi r squared equals 4/3 pi r cubed. And so I'm going to multiply both sides by 3/4 to get rid of that nasty fraction. 8 cancels with the 4. 3 times 2 is 6. So 6 pi r squared equals pi r cubed. Let's divide both sides by pi r squared. That way we can get an r by itself. These all cancel. These cancel. We're left with an r to the first. So r equals 6 because that's all that's left. All right, last one. So they gave us a quadratic and they said if negative b plus b squared minus 4c equals 18 and negative b minus b squared minus 4c equals 10, what is one possible value of x? It is easy to overthink this and to start thinking, okay, I got to use the quadratic formula. Okay, sum of solutions. What do I do here? Guys, try to keep it simple. That's basically a system of equations. So if I went and lined these up, one on top of the other, I just want you guys to see this. If I go to add these together like it's a system, because it is, those cancel, and I end up with negative 2b equals 28. I'm going to solve for b. That means b is negative 14. Awesome. Well, now I know b is negative 14. I'm going to plug it back into one of those so that I can get c. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it into that second one. So I've got negative 14 minus 14 squared minus 4c equals 10. And I'm going to solve for c. So I get 14 minus 196 minus 4c equals 10. I'm going to take away the 14 from both sides. So now I have square root of negative 196 minus 4c equals negative 4. We can divide both sides by a negative 1. So now I have square root of 196 minus 4c equals 4. I probably wouldn't do this many steps, but I'm just trying to show you guys. I would cut some corners because this is writing out a lot of work. I would do some stuff mentally, but just want you to see each step. Let's square both sides. We have 196 minus 4c equals 16. Take away the 196 from both sides. So negative 4c equals negative 180. Divide by negative 4. You end up with c is 45. Okay, let's go ahead. We're going to put them back into the equation. So now that means that x squared minus 14x, because b was negative 14, plus 45 equals 0. They want a possible value of x. Well, I'm going to factor that so that I can get the solutions. Factors of 45 that would add to negative 14. Oh, I could do negative 9 and negative 5. So when you go ahead and solve, X is either 9 or 5. So you could put 9 or 5 and you would get it right. All right, guys, I hope that helped you understand where some of your mistakes were. And so you can get better in the next test. If you're taking the June test, best of luck. Definitely consider signing up for my course so that you can get stronger before you go in there. And I will see you guys again soon. Happy prepping.